Good day. Welcome to this session where we will present our early childhood learner development and learning. I'm Aunesa, your presenter, and welcome. And I hope you are going to enjoy this lesson, and because it's going to prepare you for your examination. You just have to follow carefully, and we'll definitely go through all the chapters together. Welcome to the presentation for this subject, which is early childhood development and learning, and I hope you will enjoy your studies and that you will be successful at the end of this semester. You'll find my contact details at the end of the at the end of the presentation, and feel free to contact me from Monday to Friday from 1700 hours to 1900 hours. So feel free, in any event that you didn't understand something while you are studying, feel free to contact me via my cell phone or email. The general information that I will give to you, my colleague has summarized them nicely, is just to fully understand the content of early childhood development and learning, and also to go through the learning outcome together with you, so that at the end of the day, you understand what is expected from you. And I'll also go through the verbs that you will mostly find in the examination. And those verbs, usually that's where the student make a lot of mistakes, because sometimes the verb will say explain, and you will just list information. So we are going to go through with you, just for you to understand when a verb say what is expected from you. These are the verbs, and they are classified in different levels. We have the level 1 verbs, where they will say define. When they are saying define, you are giving brief information. You are not going to go into details, but you are just giving information that is required from you, brief information. Then they will say describe. You are only going to provide more details on certain issue or features or whatever is asked. You are describing. And when they are saying outline, you are giving an overview, or you are indicating the main features. And when they are saying explain, you are describing, or you are indicating the relationship between things. You are clarifying information. And when they say list or state or name, you are just listing names, or you are just giving facts, or you are just giving the list of objects or names. So I want you to understand, because this is level 1, in most cases, it doesn't really come with a lot of marks, because you are not giving information into details. Then we have level 2, which is having to discuss. You give clear information. You give into details. You discuss. Because you are not only giving, like what they say in level 1, list, or you name, but here you are discussing. You are giving more details about something. Then when they are saying comparing information, you are kindly giving similarity and differences between the two things. So when you are comparing, it's usually you are comparing two things or more. So you are giving what is the similarity between the two things and what are the differences between those two things. And determine, you are giving information to work out the answer. Then you are having differentiate. So you're describing two things according to the relevant criteria. Then we have the level 3, which is more into depth, where you compare, where you contrast, point out the differences and not similarity. So contrast is what are the differences between the two, but you are not giving the similarity as in compare. So critically analyze, you have to give a discussion. And to argue, mostly you have to give valid facts, and you are having to give ideas and source of information. So what you need to understand when you are giving this information is you need to understand the verb. When the question asks, always understand the verb. What is the verb requiring you to respond to? Is it saying discuss, or is it saying name, or is it saying critically analyze? So you need to understand that only then you can give information that is needed. And one thing that you need to understand is that your examination is a 3-hour examination, and it's out of 120. So out of 120 marks, where you need to answer all the questions. 3 hours, you answer all the questions, and all questions are compulsory. So when you are answering those questions, make sure that you don't spend too much time on the question that you don't understand. Make sure that you got to questions that you understand, you complete them, and you can come back to questions that you are struggling. Because in most cases, you will be struggling with question 3, for example, and you spend so much time on question 3 that you don't understand. And when you go to question 4, you only have 20 minutes left. And it's time up, you waste so much time on something that you don't understand, while you have so many points that you needed to give on other questions. So what I'm advising you, I'm not saying skip the questions, but what I'm saying, if you don't understand the question, take note of it, move to the next question, answer all the questions that you understand without wasting so much time, and come back to those questions that you are struggling with, and give them the list answers. Then we go through chapter by chapter, just for you to understand what is expected from you. In chapter 1, we are talking about the concept of growth and development. So for the chapter 1, which is the concept of growth, the concept of development, we are looking at what is growth. You need to understand what is growth and what is development. You need to differentiate between the two. As I have mentioned already, that what is the verbs? The question can come to say, differentiate between growth and development. Because the two terms, you need to differentiate them. I also want you to look at the age and stage of human lifespan. You look at the stage. What are the stage of human development? Because stage 1 will be different from stage 6. A child will be different from adolescent, or an adult, but somebody who is in adulthood. So you need to know those stages. You also need to understand the beginning of a human life, because a child begins from conception. So you need to understand the beginning, so that because you are going to deal with children, you need to understand their beginning. So when we are starting, we start with menstruation cycle. What is that? When somebody is having a menstruation. So you need to understand what is it. You need to understand what is pregnancy. You need to understand the process of antenatal care. And we need to understand the process and ways of giving birth. Because for us to understand the children that we are dealing with in our classrooms, we need to understand the process that they have gone through. Sometimes in those processes, there might have been some difficulties which made them to behave the way they are behaving. That's why you need to understand the whole process and the stages of human lifespan. So I also want you to understand the postnatal care and the possibility of implications. What are the possible implications for the postnatal care? I want you to understand the developments taking place during the 40 weeks of pregnancy, because we have 40 weeks of pregnancy. What are the developments that are taking place? Understand the first week, what is happening? The second week, what is happening? What will happen in the 4th week? How will a woman behave in their 3rd trimester, for example? You need to understand that, because it's very important. It's crucial for you to know if the mother is coming to you at school to say, during this semester, I had issues, you will be understanding this child you are dealing with in the class. So the development taking place during infant stage, because we said you need to understand the stages of development. So what are the developments that are taking place during the infant stage? I also want you to understand the developments taking place during the toddler phase, because the child is having different stages, and as a teacher you need to understand those stages. What are the developments taking place during each stage? And during the preschool stage, what are the developments which are taking place? For you, you only need to understand for each phase what are the developments which are taking place for that phase. So I also want you to understand, because we say you need to differentiate between growth and development. So you need to understand what is that happening. What are the factors which can affect growth, which can affect the child development? We have family factors. So what are the parents' implications? What are the cultural background? We have the age. Children grow faster as babies and teenagers. General health. Those are the medical conditions. Is the child having some illness? Then we have the gender, because the boys and the girls grow differently. They have different patterns. That's why, they will say, okay, the girls grow faster, the girls mature faster than the boys sometimes. It depends. Then we have the eating habits, what and how the child eats. All this affect the growth. All this affect the development of the child, because what you eat can also contribute to the development of a person. Then we have activity levels. Are the kids active at home, or are they just locked in the house? What are the activities that they are doing that can contribute to development? Then we look at the stages of development. As I have mentioned earlier, you need to understand what are the stages that these kids are going through, children go through. We have infant stage, we have preschool stage, we have middle childhood stage, we have adolescent stage. So you need to understand what is happening, what are the developments happening in each stage. So the pre-birth stage, we have at this stage, the development of human being is potentially only the child who has not yet been born. So when we are saying pre, meaning that not yet, before, meaning that before birth, pre-birth, before birth. So what is that happening before birth? Then you need to understand the dying and the death, because after the growth has taken place, after maturity, after old age, then comes death. When a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it has to happen. Death is when all biological function that sustain a living organism are no more functioning. So then we say the person cannot breathe anymore. Biological functioning cannot sustain a living organism. So death, particularly the death of humans, has commonly been considered as a sad occasion due to the fact that the affection that we have for the person being has died. So the termination of our social being and familiar bonds that we have with the person, that's what makes us sad during this occasion. So when we are preparing for pregnancy, because the child needs to be born, what happened first? So someone has to go through the process. A woman has to go through the process called menstruation cycle, referring to the change that occur naturally. A woman's body has to prepare for its pregnancy. Then we have ovulation, referring to the release of mature egg from the ovary. During this phase, a woman's estrogen levels cause gonadotropic releasing of hormones to be released from her brain. Then the pregnancy, also known as gestation, is the time during which one or more offspring develop inside a human being, which is a woman. So we have someone developing inside a woman. That's what we call pregnancy. So the first and the most common signs of pregnancy is missed periods. So in most cases, people will ask, have you seen your periods? So meaning that is the most common sign. So you need to understand other signs as well of pregnancy. For example, a woman will be tired, there's constipation, sometimes they get hungry fast, they have back pain, nausea, and sometimes they have breasts which are tender. So those are just common signs. I'm not saying one of these signs meaning already it's a pregnancy, but those are just common signs. But a pregnancy has to be tested to be positive for a person to say yes, the person is really pregnant. Because some of the signs can mean something different. So we have antenatal care, which is very important. The question can be, why antenatal care important? Because it can prevent complications such as hypertension and diabetes. So you need to go so that they can check up all these complications. Early diagnosis means that they can be properly monitored and treated. Because if they see that the child is not doing well, they can properly monitor the child. Okay? They can provide caregivers with opportunity to explain why is it important to go through this. It's very important because some of the sickness can even be detected while somebody is pregnant. So that's why it's important for a woman to have proper antenatal care. A proper nutrition during pregnancy and breastfeeding is expecting from the mother. So the expecting mother needs to go through proper nutrition during this time, because whatever you feed yourself when you are pregnant, you are feeding the child as well. So sometimes you need to go to the clinic for them to give you such information. What exactly do you need to eat, and what is that need to be received by the child? It helps expectant parents to gain insight and get facts on information about pregnancy. Sometimes it's the first pregnancy. So the expecting mother need to get this information, because sometimes you don't even know what is expected from you. So you need to get this information as a parent to look after yourself so that you can give birth to a healthy child. So it also gives partners an opportunity to understand the whole process of being pregnant, of giving birth, and of early parenting, because it's not only about a woman, it's also about the father. So you need to go together. So this information needs to be shared by both parents. Then you need to understand the terms like conception, ovulation, and fertilization. Those are the most important terms when it comes to pregnancy. You need to understand them and you need to define them, because the exam can ask you to define them or can ask you to choose, but you can only make choice of the term when you know the definition of the term. So then we look at Unit 2. At Unit 2, we are looking at the factors that influence physical growth and health of young children. And we are looking at the importance of health in the development of the child. So, what are those factors that influence physical growth and the health of a child? In most cases, those factors can be genetical factors, which are genes. Some of the genes can be passed from generation to generation and can still play an important role. Some of the factors can be nutrition. We talked about what is that the child eats. What is that you feed the child? Some of the factors that can affect physical growth can be illness. Some of the factors can be injury. Maybe the child was playing, something happened, and the child gets injured. It can be brain injury. So all those factors, it can be an environment in which the child grows. All those factors affect development. It can be the behavior of the caregivers. Everything affects what we do with the child, affect the way the child grows. Then we have the following factors that influence a child's social and emotional well-being. The other one we spoke about, they affect the physical growth. These ones we are talking about what affect the social and emotional well-being of a child. So which is different from physical. So we have positive caring relationship in early years are the building blocks for social development. So meaning that how you care about the child, how you talk to the child affect the way the child socializes with everyone in the family. It's very important. The secure attachment, how loving you are with the child. How about the person you leave the child with at home when you are at work? What are the relationships? It affects the social and emotional well-being of the child. Consistent and responsive caregiver fosters security in young child. So how consistent, how responsive you are to the child's needs. Are you shouting at them? Very, very important. The goodness of how fit mothers are. Nurturing environment, because the environment play an important role in the child. And you must also look at page 89. Very important for you to look at how other factors can really contribute to the child development. So, and we also look at the child, the factors that impact the cognitive of the child. Supportive parenting. How are the parents support this child? Very crucial for a child. What is important for, what is a good parent for that child? A good parent is somebody who is there, very responsive, very loving, very involved in the child's life. It doesn't matter how much money you have, but what matters most is how you are involved in the child's life. How do you respond to their needs? How loving you are. So, and you can also be there, creating clear boundaries in their lives. The warmth, the loving, the nurture, the expectation. Are you encouraging them to achieve what they need to achieve? So the following are some of the consequences of supportive parenting. Because if you are there supporting the kids, if you are there supporting the children, there are always consequences, because you are strengthening the parent and the child bond. If you are supporting them, that bond between the child and the mother and the child and the father will forever be there. And when you are supporting them, it's easier for the children to understand. And it's easier for them also to report certain things to you. And it's also easier for them to be open to you. It encourages communication. It's very important that when you are supporting your child, it encourages communication because you are very supportive. They can share information with you. It helps them to develop a happy relationship, and they will become happy adults. Supported children become happy adults. So, but when you are not involved, negative parenting include authoritarian parenting system or style, permissive system, indifferent parenting, manipulative parenting, overindulging parenting, inconsistent parenting, neglecting, overcorrective, overprotective, toughening up, overindulging, spoiling. Those are negative parenting because at the end of the day, they will not teach a child anything. Either you are too strict, either you are too much, either you neglect. Sometimes you think you are giving, but you are too spoiling. So you need to balance the parenting style. So adjustment problems include the following: withdrawal. When the child cannot adjust, they will be withdrawn, they will be depressed, they can even have can cause self-injuries, they will be obsessed, they will reject school, they will end up using drugs and other substance abuse, they will be having self-destructive, they will be uncooperative, they will be violent. These are ill adjustment problems. So, what are the contributing factors to become maladjusted? Maladjusted contributing factors are families, contributing factor are schools, and contributing factor can be the society. Because in the society, there are so many things, external factors that can contribute to maladjusting behavior of the kids. So the common characteristic of maladjusted children in the family, in most cases, these kids have poor relationship with everyone. They don't want to be part of the family. They are different from everyone. They are rebellious. They are against parents' rules. They stay out late. They don't want to listen. So their concerns are always different from the family members. So, and at school, maladjusted kids, they disregard the school rules, very ill discipline at school. School regulations are not followed. They are forever fighting at school, disrupting classes. We have those kids at school, and they also have influence in other classmates who follow their bad behaviors. They openly challenging school authority, insulting teachers, and so on. Very often being empathetic towards school activities and their way forward behavior, they are not accepted by fellow learners and they are not accepted by teachers. They are forever creating conflict at schools. So you need to also to understand what is toxic stress is all about. The toxic stress include the following, because toxic stress is stress which is continuously there. So, because sometimes we can say we are stressed, but it's just stress for one day, or just stress for 2 days. But when it's come toxic, sometimes it's caused by the death in a family. It's caused by high conflict, continuously conflict between people. It causes domestic violence. Maybe someone is forever beating the wife, or the father is beating the mother, or vice versa, or violence in the family. Toxic stress can also be caused by divorce, because sometimes these kids are witnessing parents going through divorce. It can also create stress, and it can also be prolonged illness. Somebody suffering from illness which has been there for a long period of time, it can also cause toxic stress. It can also be neglect. Maybe a child has been neglected. Emotional and physical abuse can also cause toxic stress, and excessively harsh parenting. For some parents, they think when they are too harsh, that's when they think it's good for their children. But in most cases, it can also cause stress among in their kids. Then we have styles of attachment. We have secure attachment, avoidant attachment, resistant attachment, disorganized attachment. You need to understand those type of attachment, and I have summarized them in short. Like secure attachment, the child feel positive and feel loved because it's secure, from the word security. So this attachment, you feel positive, you feel loved. Then we have avoidant attachment, a child feel unloved and rejected. Then we have resistant one, where the child feel angry and confused. And we have disorganized one, where they reflect greatly insecurity and show confused and contradictory behavior. And we have ways where the parents can ensure secure attachment in among children. How will you make sure that children feel secure? You build trust, you build recognition, you need to be consistent, time, pay attention. Sometimes it's not about giving them money, it's about spending time with your kid. Affection, praise them when they have done well. Set boundary, listen to them, laugh with them, provide balance, unconditional love, all that can really provide security for kids. And we have self-image. Self-image factors that can affect self-image in early child development. For example, if a child lack of self-confidence, when the child doesn't have confidence, it affects self-confidence. It absence of assertiveness, pretending what they are not, non-conformity and antisocial behavior, lack of generosity and rebellious behavior can also contribute to self-image among when the child is in early childhood stage. Then we have good self-esteem help a child to develop positive abilities, such as the child is able to set firm praise values. When a child is having good self-esteem, they can also formulate their own values and principles. Individuals with positive self-esteem do not have difficulty modifying their beliefs. They also have living for the future, and they also believe in their capacity. When your self-esteem is positive, you believe in the future, you believe you can do. They participate and enjoy activity in your class. They are not just withdrawn. In most cases, children who don't have positive self-esteem, they are withdrawn, they are crying, but when they have positive, good self-esteem, they are participating in activity. They are being sensitive toward others' feelings and their needs. They don't manipulate people. They consider others as well. They consider their self-worth. They can achieve. So, and for Unit 3, you need to look at development in details. We look at physical skills, cognitive development, we look at language development, we look at emotional development, we look at emotional and social development, we look at self-esteem, the moral development, religious development, creative development, aesthetic development, and sexual development. So when you are looking at the development as holistic, we are looking at all those development. we are looking at physical itself, how the child grows physically, what you see, cognitively, the mind, how the mind functions, language, emotional and social, how do they interact, how do they socialize with others, self-esteem, how do they view themselves, how do they understand themselves, religious, creativity, artistic, and sexual development. All this as a package is a holistic development of a child. So there are several factors that influence self-esteem. So this includes, because we say you need to have a positive self-esteem to achieve. You need to have positive self-esteem to do what you can do. So we have the age, we have the gender, we have socio-economic factors, and we have the body image. So all those factors can contribute to the way the self-esteem function. Then we have in Unit 4, I only want you to look at early childhood learning. So I want you to look at observation, imitation, practicing, guided discovery, questioning, and working. Those are early childhood learning. They learn through observing, imitation, practicing, guided discovery, questioning, and working. So I want you to understand what do they mean for each one. I also want you to look at guided discovery by looking at the trigger, curiosity. I want you to look at personalized learning, powerful motivators, enrich prior knowledge, encourage sweet feedback, and develop episodic memory. So those are what are the benefits of guided discovery learning. That's what it does to the child. It triggers curiosity. It helps the child to understand their area of interest. It's a powerful motivator because you are discovering. It enriches prior knowledge. It encourages sweet feedback, and it also develop episodic memories. So these are the things that you need to understand why guided discovery needed. I also want you to look at encouraging children to do household or classroom jobs. What are the benefits when you are encouraging the child to do something at home or in the class? They learn to be independent because we don't want people who depend on other people all the time. They learn to respect and value their gifts. They learn to be good steward of environment because they are part of the environment and they are contributing to it. They learn basic skills, which is needed. The child needs to do something because they need to learn basic skills. Those are the benefits. They learn to be responsible because I can't throw everything down on the floor. I need to pick it up. They need to be responsible. They learn the value themselves and others. They learn the value of serving others. And they learn the value to do something worthwhile. I also want you to look at the factors influencing learning in early childhood. Yes, there are parenting interaction, protection of and care, health. As you can see, nutrition is forever appearing in those factors. And you also see that environment is always appearing there because we are what the environment gives to us. The uniqueness, play, and explore speech and language development. We also look at the social interaction. How does this child interact with people? Does it have siblings? Does it have anybody to talk to? Or is the child alone at home? So we also look at how do you stimulate children's brain. You stimulate the brain of the child by playing with the child. When the child is playing, it works with the brain as well. You talk, you develop the arts, you develop the music, you do a lot of exercise with the child, you show them love, you give them good food, and they also need to rest by sleeping. It stimulates the child's play. So the key role of why the child crawl and talk in early child development. Physical coordination is needed, tactical skills, visual. When the child is crawling, the child is looking in different direction. It's visual skills that is needed. Efficient navigation, self-confidence, because I can do it. I can pick up something. I can crawl until I reach there. And also by talking. So in chapter 5, you need to look at the importance of why the child needs to play in early years. Because when the child is playing, it's not just playing for fun. It's very important because it stimulates a lot in the child. So those activities, the engagement, it helps the child ability to concentrate. The process is there. It's for fine and gross development, motor skills, language skills. And they play because they need to socialize. They need personal awareness. They need to play because it solves problems, for problem-solving skills. So there are so many reasons why the child needs to play, and you need to understand it. And you also need to understand categories of children play. So we have discovery, which is exploratory one, manipulative play, constructive play, fantasy play, where they have to pretend to be the doctors and whatnot, motor physical skill play, and the games with the rules. All this type of play says a lot in the child's development, says a lot in the child. So then we have the stages of play: unoccupied, solitary play. Sometimes they are just onlooker, sometimes they are parallel, sometimes they associate, cooperative one, then the social one. So as a teacher, you need to understand those stages of play. What are they and what do they mean? So the value of play in the following. Why does play needed in physical development? Why does play needed in cognitive development? Why does play needed in the language development? When they are playing, that's why sometimes when they play with others, they will even come back home with new terms. Then you say, no, you have learned that language at school. So through playing, they have a lot of physical development going on, they have a lot of cognitive development going on, and they have a lot of language development going on. Then for Unit 6, you need to understand the influence of perceptual ability and learning style, because as a teacher, you need to understand how does your children in your class learn. So the learning style of in early childhood development is very crucial, and you need to understand them. And for Unit 7, you need to understand how technology stimulates early learning. Especially nowadays, technology occupies learners. Children are in iPhones, children are in their iPads, and children are very busy. So you need to understand exactly what is happening. So, and the last unit, you need to understand the issues of inclusive and special needs education. You need to understand what is inclusive education is all about. You need to understand what special education is all about. And lastly, you need to understand principles that guide quality of inclusive education. What are the principles that guide quality of inclusive education? So, and what are the benefits of inclusive education? Very important for you to understand, why do we need to have inclusive education? What are the benefits of inclusive education? And before that, you also need to understand the contribution of HIV and AIDS on children at school and on teachers themselves, and children who lost their parents due to HIV and AIDS, and those children are in your class. What are the factors? What are the contribution factors? So Lastly, finally, the most important thing is for you to understand the barriers of implementation of inclusive education. So because inclusive education needs to be implemented in schools, but there are barriers. What are the challenges that schools going through when they are implementing inclusive education? Those factors are in your schools: physical, inappropriate curriculum, untrained teachers, for example, poor funding, poor organization, policy factors. So you need to understand them into details. So special education needs problems, identify them, and also understand children who are gifted. So, and identify professional support that can be given to those children. So good luck with your examination. You are welcome to contact me via my email address, samaune@yahoo.com, or my cell phone number is 081-233-6112. I thank you and all the best for your examination. Feel free to contact me anytime, as I have indicated earlier. Thank you.